beyond roles and individuals, and thinking more about constantly the evolving talent ecosystem and supply chain, and what type of work components are we outsourcing versus automating versus keeping in-house? And when we do that, where do we get the capability? And is that going to be from a gig worker versus a partner versus another entity or a full-time equivalent, et cetera? But it's constantly looking at the talent supply chain and ensuring that, in addition to the upskilling, reskilling, is in complete synergy working together. So it's strategic workforce planning in a very evolved way around strategic work planning. The next, Bissy, number 4, is around a purveyor of performance enablement. And I think this term performance enablement is really critical here. And what we're talking about here is looking at what does it take in order for each worker to be working at their absolute optimal. And that would take in consideration development, rewards, well-being programs, goal clarity and alignment, when they need to be in the office for strategic reasons versus not, and being able to do things wherever they want. But it is all around performance enablement. Right now, one of the biggest paradoxes out there, and it's a false paradox, is can you be both empathetic as a leader and drive productivity? And we know the answer to that is they are not mutually exclusive, but there are critical components that we've seen in our research that enable both of those to work symbiotically. The last one is a total stakeholder orchestrator. And this is really looking at, I don't care if you want to call it corporate social responsibility, environmental social governance, corporate sustainability, it doesn't matter. This is looking and saying there are partnerships both internally and externally that we must create and manage that allow our business to achieve not only its business goals, but to do it in a way that also benefits the communities and societies in which it operates, as well as the environment, as well as driving social or equity as well, both socially as well as internally within the organization. And it sounds like I've got, oh, there we go. Thanks, Lisa, for muting. But I'm just curious, and I know this is the first time Dan and Marcus have seen this slide or heard me talk to it, but they're no strangers to this as well. I'm just wondering, what if any of these really resonate, or would you add to any of these and say, hey, you know what, as you refine this, maybe there's something here that you're not thinking about?
I'm going to talk a little, it's a perfect, as we transition into what I'm going to chat about, it absolutely I agree with everything on this slide, hands down. I think one thing that has been changing, and one thing we're going to talk about in a moment, is what we call a radical work experience, and that consists of about 6 things that make up the acronym of radical, which is reason, accomplishment, direction, identity, connection, and learning. So when you think about the role of a CHRO, these are the things that I think, as we think about employee engagement and employee experience, this is the future of the types of leaders that we need. So it's creating that alignment and creating better connections, understanding the way we work now as cross-functional teams, right? The notion of hierarchy and working teams based on a hierarchy is sort of a thing of the past. The last bullet, stakeholder or orchestration or orchestrator, is so critical. We're seeing an absolute need in organizations where a CEO, CFO, COO, CIO, CHRO to work together to maximize, right, people experience. And we're finally starting to see that in some companies. We don't do it enough. We still have these, I think we have, HR processes and systems, and we have people analytics programs, and we have talent acquisition, and we don't have enough connectedness. So I think the future of CHROs and the future of chief people officers will be to bring people together, bring leadership together, bring programs together. So, everything you're saying resonates with me, and we'll continue to talk about that through the hour.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear. Yeah.
From my side, very, very good list. I really like this list. And what I like very much is this advisor role. So this role to the board, to this advising the people. And I see it often in companies that's not yet there. So that's really the future. And when I work with people on digital transformation, then often this HR role is not there or too weak. And if you think of this big change of technologies, this digital changes, that's a lot about culture, that's a lot about people. And it's clear for the employees that they have to change and that it's a big transformation, but often there is no advisor. And that's why I really like this trusted advisor to the board who guides this company in terms of change and in terms of people.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to that, sorry, we could probably geek out over this over for a long time. So I think the too often within HR, we've seen decision-making around technology and solutions and building up the HR stack of solutions come from a place, unfortunately, of not the best decision makers, right? We're not the advisory around what really matters, what's going to impact our people. We're picking and choosing solutions just based on hearsay. Maybe they're fine technologies, but they're not really necessarily needed for the change we're trying to make. And HR moves quickly in the past, historically, and is kind of clicks, check boxes, adds on systems and platforms, which is why we have on average 50 to 60 to 70 HR solutions in an HR stack of technology that's supposed to be adding value and making a better employee experience, but ultimately it's just creating a little more chaos and lacks integration, lacks thoughtfulness, lacks in being intentional with delivery. So I think that advisory role and really wrapping our arms around what are we trying to do, especially from a digital standpoint, and I know, Marcus, you'll be diving into this, and just from a people process and a human perspective, right? How does this system, Kevin, as you put it earlier, how does this work together to truly drive transformational change and sustainable change over time?
Yeah, I so value what the contributions that both of you guys make to discussions like this. And, what it reminds me of is, as I look at, just even evolving this and turning this into something that's more formal that we share with our members, one of the things that we, in our work, we do a ton of work with Professor Rob Cross, who's actually part of my team out of Babson College. But we are constantly with Rob talking about, so many companies right now have maximized their human capital. They're not maximizing their social capital. And Dan, I think that's really hitting upon the relational piece that you were talking around, the social connections. And I think that needs to be illustrated more in here. And Marcus, just thinking of what you and Dan were talking about in the technology piece, one of the things that we need to emphasize even more in here too is around the technology side, because one of the areas, and if I talk to a ton of corporate directors, I'm sure you guys do as well, and they're constantly saying, what is HR doing around preparation on the fourth industrial revolution, which is exactly where we've been and where we're even more in right now. It's just ChatGPT has turned it up a notch, in everyone's mind for the reality of where it is. But most heads of HR are still ill-equipped to discuss and provide insights into the readiness of their teams to both work with advanced technology, to optimize that, as well as embrace it, not be afraid of it, but and I'll just leave it at that. But I really appreciate the ads that you've made here, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you both have to say. Thanks.
Yeah,
Bissy, I had one more slide. I don't want to talk about it. I think this is the perfect time. Let's just bypass this. I think it's the perfect time to go to Dan.
Well, and Bissy, if you want to, I mean, just make it easier, if you want to stop sharing, I can just quickly share my screen, and then I can.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
okay. Perfect. Fantastic. And I'm going to share. I'm just going to share my deck, and we can get rolling. So put it into presentation mode. If you can't see, let me know. Versus if you can see. So I am Dan Riley, and thank you, Kevin. That was awesome. Always love hearing your perspective on things, and that was great. So thank you. And like I said, really sets up this next conversation, I think quite well. So I am the co-founder of Radical. I don't want to spend too much time talking about my historic past, and I always hate to say historic. We always I think we say we've been in the industry for 25 years, 30 years, and I'm not sure why we say that. Either to make ourselves feel older, make ourselves feel wiser, but it just makes me feel older. So I'm going to stop saying that. But I have been in the industry for that long. Before my Radical, I founded a company called Modern Survey. We were a kind of disruptive employee listening platform, kind of end-to-end and people analytics platform from a tech perspective. Radical is, we are focused primarily on inspiring change. We're a global employee experience advisory company, and we do inspire organizations to unlock their energy and their purpose. So that is me. I am going to start with a little interaction. I don't know how many are on, but that doesn't matter. I am a musician, a touring musician, and when I used to play shows, if there's 3 people in the audience, I would put my best show forward. If there were 3,000, I would do the same. So it doesn't matter. So let me take a look at how many people are on, and I'm going to ask how you're doing.
Dan, I have it as a poll question if you want.
Oh, perfect. Yes, we did do this in a poll question, even better. So let me set this up. I like to ask this question around how are you? And here's why. This question pre-pandemic has always been important, but pre-pandemic, it was just almost a nicety, right? How are you? I'm doing great. How are you? I'm doing great. Let's get into conversation. I didn't really care about asking the question. I did, but I'm speaking more in language of most of us. And those responding just wanted to quickly respond to it. Something happened over the past 3 years where the question became meaningful. I'm asking it because I genuinely want to know, how are you? Right? How are you handling change? How are you handling the hybrid working world? How are you handling just family challenges? Right? So the question became more important. And so I like to start every meeting with my team or with my clients. How are you? And I like to do a really simple approach to this, which is green. I'm feeling great. Things are good. It's been a great week, and this could be personal, business. Again, it doesn't have to be related to just work. Yellow, I'm average. Things could be better, but it's not terrible. Red, things could be better. And the reason I do this is because it opens up that safe space before any important discussion starts, to really listen to your people, pay attention to your people, and if someone is red, to offer help. Right? We're all human, and sometimes we don't listen to each other and recognize an opportunity to have a conversation. And sometimes if someone's red, again, all they're saying is, look, I got 30% to give. I'm off. I don't really want to talk about it, which is fine. So how are all of you? Are you green? Again, feeling great. Yellow, average, could be better. And red, not so good. All right. And then polls are coming in, and we have For most of us, we are yellow, a few greens, no reds. That is great. This is a safe space. So if for whatever reason you're red, do let us know. Good. And I'm asking this question for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to know how you're all doing, most importantly. Number two, I suggest doing this with your teams or with your clients or even teams that are outside of work, things that are important to you, gatherings of people. This helps create connectedness. Everything Kevin was just talking about too, around sort of the new role of CHRO and leadership, is to listen more, right? The best leaders listen, right? The best leaders actually care about how you're feeling and offer support. Or just say, I hear you, whatever that might be. So I'm glad to hear everyone, for the most part, is green or yellow. Hopefully, the three of you who are yellow will be green by the end of this entire webinar today. So thank you, Bissy, for doing that poll. And I can move on to the next slide. So I'll close that out. So as we've all been saying and talking about, and Bissy, you started off with this, everything changed in 2020. I was just having a conversation with a great friend of mine about this. Truly what we all had to go through, and how we are to a point where we are, for the most part, behind the pandemic. But we were also talking about how resilient we are, right, as humans, and how we did bounce back probably faster than we thought. Than we thought, and so that gives me. I'm an optimist, and that has inspired me, right, to I guess when we put it in the context of organizational change, if I hear an organization or a CEO, and this kind of gets back to what Kevin was saying too, we're not capable of doing this, too much disruption too fast, I would. Excuse my language, but call BS on that. Meaning we can change. If it's important, we can and we should and we have to. And most importantly, right, everything continues to change. This isn't some moment. We haven't hit, it's not that things have changed. Things are changing. Things are changing daily, weekly, monthly. I mean, even just think about generative AI and ChatGPT and what less than a year, how this is dominated, right? How we work, tools that we can leverage. And I was just speaking in Austin, Texas, to a big room around how is generative AI going to shape and reshape HR. And one of my questions, and I won't get into too much detail there, I'm going to leave that for Marcus to talk more there. But one of my questions was, are you fearful, or do you think, and do you think this is going to be positive for HR and people analytics team? There were leaders of people analytics and HR in the room. There wasn't a single hand that went up being fearful. Everyone agreed we have to be careful, right? And we have to adopt it with, being intentional and being thoughtful and call it out when it isn't quite right, recognizing some of the data is still old, right? From 2021, and starting to update, it's starting to become more relevant. And then we got into a conversation of how are you using it within HR to speed things up, to actually enhance processes. And there were so many great things. I could spend all an hour talking about what we heard, and it was really fascinating. So that was a great conversation. And that is just one of the things that continues to change. And it is building a sense of connectedness. I do believe that. I think we need to make sure it doesn't create isolation. And I think we need to have a certain level of trust in it. If we start not to trust AI, we're going to be in a tough spot. I think we have an option. Either we blindly trust it, which we shouldn't do, right? But we do have to start to trust in its progress and how it can help us and how it can continue to evolve HR, and it will. So in your organization, be prepared for that. And Marcus will certainly talk more about this. So I will make a bold statement about HR, and I'm just going to move. Well, there we go. All right. So the context for work is changing, and I, being an optimist, I do believe work is broken in many ways, and here's why. Work was originally created for profit, not for people. Right? If you go back in time, the entity of organizations and corporations and work was really designed to build something to produce profit, right? That's which was fine, and that's where it started. It wasn't thought with what the idea wasn't started with. Let's create something amazing that's going to change things. Of course, be profitable. We want to be successful, but ultimately we're going to focus and empower our people, because we know people are our greatest asset. And the problem is, we're over the past few years and many years, we've been trying to, I think, peel back the concept of how do we put people over profits, understanding that profitability is an outcome, understanding that success is an outcome of taking care of our people. Any CEO that starts off by saying, my number one priority is to drive revenue and be more profitable, I say, no, your number one priority is to take care of your people, to inspire your people, to empower your people. If you do that correctly, and of course you have to have a great idea, and you have to have good go-to-market strategy and all the above, but if you're not empowering your people, taking care of your people, and this is the job and the role of the future of being a CHRO, Chief People Officer, that is how you're going to drive success within your organization. And some of the things that we consult at with Radical is tackling some of these things that are a bit broken, and trust is one of them, right? Trust in within organization, trust in each other. And I don't mean trust in I don't believe you, or it's just trust in how we operate, making sure that we're being as open, we're communicating consistently, right? All of these things, without trust, we're not going to get very, very far. Productivity, right? I mean, there's a pain point with productivity that comes from new hybrid working models, right? Comes from disconnection across organizations, Zoom meetings back to back to back. It's tough, right? I mean, things are different. So productivity, it burns us out, right? Efficiency. I'm not going to dig into all of these, but efficiency, well-being, right? When well-being is a critical one, mental health, right? Stress, all these things that fall under the larger umbrella of well-being. And even that simple question of how are you is a starting point to help understanding how are your people doing, how are they feeling. But most importantly, making sure you create a safe place where they can raise their hand and say, you know, whether it's burnout, whether it's mental health, whether it's somewhere in the middle, we have to have programs and we have to have benefits that help support that and drive that forward. Skills. We know the importance of skills. I'm a huge believer in human skills, which is more focused on values and purpose, connection and empathy and humility and listening, right, more effectively. I mean, these are skills that go a long way in any role that you have. Of course, there's technical skills and more specific skills that are important, but without the larger framework of human skills, again, it puts us in a tough spot. Teams, the nature of teams, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in Kevin's question, this cross-functional reality of how work actually gets done, right, is the way work is getting done, right? It isn't done through, I'm a manager, here are my 7 people, and we have 5 things that we're working on, and this is set in our performance objectives, and we're going to work for 12 months, and then we'll check in at the end of the year, right? Teams are being spun up and stood up on a regular basis, and they're typically cross-functional, which is great, but we have to But this can also be stressful if we don't have the proper tools and we don't have the proper digital, which Marcus will talk about, the digital infrastructure to support this and help manage this. And HR fragmentation. It looks like, sorry, the N is wrapped, so fragmentio. Sounds like the name of a band. And remote. We know hybrid. This is challenging. So real fast, the why. We're having this conversation today, and the changing face of HR is we believe, and I think all of us believe on this call, every person deserves an epic work experience, right? And the time it is now. We have to put ourselves and create a change mindset to drive this forward. How? We believe we can defy gravity and rewrite the work story, right? Through creative, truth-based, human-centric design. That's a bold and utopian statement. I understand that, but it can be done, right? It can be done. And what do we do at Radical, and what do I believe in? And I think all of us speaking on the call believe in. We believe, and we're confident we can create epic work experience journeys, whether that's through people process, technology process. I'm a huge believer in while I'm a technologist at heart, solve before you scale. And what do I mean by that is whatever we're scaling, people, tech, solutions, integration, HR programs, if we're not solving for a human problem, let's not do it. Like, pause, make sure we understand why we're implementing technology, why we're implementing digital solutions. Not because it's the cool new vendor in town, or not because we just know we should be more digital. It has to be linked back to specific employee experience, specific human outcomes. So with that, understand your organization. So understand the business. Always start there, right? Your purpose, priorities. And what does performance look like? Put expectations around performance, but base performance based on a little more on the purpose and priorities, and not the obligation and timelines, right? So understand the business, culture, talent, and experience, right? Make sure everyone understands personal values, organizational values, the importance of principles, right? Understand your critical talent populations, and in a war for talent, we need to understand what type of talent do we need, and should we be searching for, and how do we retain that talent? Understand your employee experience highlights and your challenges. Celebrate the highlights, dig in to the challenges, and what interventions are necessary and needed. And I am tying this all back to HR, but also the business is responsible for this. Again, per Kevin's earlier point, right? And Bissy, as she started, the HR's responsibility isn't just transactional anymore, and it hasn't been for a while, but especially now. Understanding your people, understanding places, and when we talk about, this is our 5P model. when we talk about places, where we work, hybrid work, when we show up to work, how are we organized? How are we structured? If we're all in a room with cubes where we can hear each other, and we're all still on Zoom calls every day, that makes no sense, right? So we have to think through that. Let's just not create sort of a program where we send everyone back to the office for 3 days, but we sit on our computer and stare at our screens and are bothered by everyone sitting to the left and right of us, right? Process, understand our process, think through our process and programs, right? What programs do we have? What programs more specific to learning and development? And I'm going to go through some of these in a moment. So real fast, I want to go through this slide, and sorry if it's a little hard to read, but the thought around this slide, and I'm bringing this slide up more for you all just to think about conceptually. And I'm going to talk about our recent research on a radical work experience, but what we found is 21% of people have a radical work experience. And again, that's based on reason and accomplishment, direction, identity, connection, and learning. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But to the right, I want to focus on there is as we think about optimization, and HR as HR continues to evolve, looking across all the solutions and programs and technology that we have, we do need to optimize, and we do need to, again, understand what's adding value to our people, what's adding value to the organization, what's adding value ultimately to our customers and to our success. And this grid is looking at improvement in work experience and decrease in work experience, and then decrease in investment and increase in investment. And I'm a believer that you can actually reduce costs, right, and improve work experience. As crazy as that sounds. And that's that win-win category, and which is maximum efficiency spend and reduction. That's obviously not going to create a huge impact, but somewhere across that continuum. And what I mean by that is if you're reducing potential solutions that aren't adding value, you're being super intentional, you're being super thoughtful, that's kind of where you want to fall. And of course, if you don't have a lot of solutions in place and you need to invest, understanding you might find that there's the ROI zone, which is the return on investment zone, which means we do need to implement a new listening platform. We do need to implement a new platform that's an LMS platform, because we're on a super outdated or internally grown one that isn't adding value anymore. But I think it's really important to think about how do we improve work experience, and then think about the investment. And it doesn't mean just invest. It actually means optimize, right? And pay attention to what solutions you have in place. And back to the left, the only way you do this is with that joint ownership and alignment across top leadership and across teams. And we need CEO, CFO, COO, CIOs, and CHROs to be working together in concert to do this. So I want to just address what I talked about before, which is our recent research that indicates 21% of workers have a radical work experience. And how do we define this? Number one is reason for work connected to a purpose, right? Whether it's the Alpha generation or Gen Y or Gen kind of millennials or really Gen Zs, anybody for that matter, right? We all want to feel we're connected to something, working for something that's bigger than ourselves, right? And so that is critical. Reason for work connected to purpose. Number two, accomplishment in meaningful work, right? We all want to feel like we're adding significant value to something that's important, something that's meaningful, something that fills us up, right? Fills us up as an individual. Direction. Without direction and alignment, with incredible reason for purpose and a sense of a craving for accomplishment, without direction, it's tough, right, to accomplish that. I always use the example with engagement. If you have two teams, one team that's your highly engaged people on paper, right? They are your top performers, and you have your kind of disengaged people on the other side, and you have an objective, and your one objective is to dig a ditch, to dig a hole somewhere. And your disengaged people, you give them shovels and you tell them exactly where to dig. And your engaged people, you don't give them any information. You don't tell them where to dig the hole, and you give them no tools. Guess who's going to be successful, right? So right there, regardless of how engaged your people are, without direction and without tools, you sort of lose, right? Lose that magic of people who are psychologically invested and committed to your organization and bringing their best every day. Direction is key. Identity. This is I could do a whole webinar on this one, but this is who you are, what you bring to the equation, feeling valued and belonging as a person, right? How do you bring your whole person? And connections based on trust, right? This is critical, and learning, opportunity to learn, grow, regenerate, this is key. So I'm going to move a little faster here because I know we started a little late. Real fast, this is data, again, that just helps us to reinforce these 6 areas. 82% of people want more purpose from work. The number one motivator is meaningful progress. With direction, we're typically 4.5 times happier with that clarity, with that direction. Identity, whole person experience, we see about a 75% lift in performance and productivity and engagement for really having that inclusive environment where you can truly have your own personal identity and feel safe with it and feel like you have a voice, right? Connection for high trust, 50% higher productivity. And learning, 76% would stay for more skills development, which again, drive opportunity within the organization. So real fast, when we think about change and HR specifically, tying this back to a change mindset and how do we inspire our people to walk through change and move through change with us, the number one thing is that mindset, right? I have to believe that where I'm going is better than where I am today. And that sometimes takes a leap of faith. I can believe it, but I have to be willing to go on that journey. To go on that journey, I have to have the proper mindset, right? To have the proper mindset, I have to be courageous, right? And actually, fear is a healthy thing when you have people around you and when you have connections around you that also want to go there with you, right? You're more likely to tackle fear with a trusted network, with trusted people who can pick you up if you fall, right? So we have to feel connected. That's a part of a mindset. Being humble, and the simple way I define being humble is understanding and being willing to say, I don't know. Right? Humble enough to say, I don't know, but let's figure it out together. Empathetic, right? Empathy is understanding a different perspective, listening to a different perspective, even if you might not agree. It's amazing what will happen when you do that. Transparency and trust, I think that speaks for itself. And commitment, right? Once you decide to make a change, whether it's something in your life personally or whether it's within a team or whether it's in across an HR function in the organization, right? You have to be committed to this. So we want to energize, right? When we do this, I have a slide that digs into a lot more of this. There was a question, will we share slides? Yes, I'm completely fine sharing these slides, so I will send them out shortly after this. And Bissy, we can discuss the best way to share this with those who have joined. But we want to create energy, right? Energy drives change. We want to create a sense of personalization, right? Through a well thought through whole person framework. And HR has a new responsibility there. How do you create personalization without creating programs down to an individual level, right? Which is we can't do. And there are ways to do this. Absolutely. And then ignite, right? We have to ignite through fast, lovable experiences and not just viable, right? not viable experiences, but lovable experiences, right? So how do we create experience? And HR has to understand that. So again, everything we do has to be linked back to the person experience, the people experience. And then we need to be willing to calibrate, figure out what's working, what's not working. So we need to listen, adapt, and change and evolve with feedback loops. That's so important. I'm not going to go through all of the outcomes here. I will send this and share this slide. So again, my final statement is I've lived this. I've personally in growing and building companies. I've experienced this myself, and I've shared personal stories about this in other speaking events, but I know organizations who change by putting their people first will come out on top. You can't do it alone. Like anything in life, for the most part, you need people. You need to surround yourselves with incredible people. And you have to, the only way to do that is there has to be that sense of trust. And HR had it as a commitment, right, to make sure they put people first. And if you do that, everything else will follow. I'm a huge believer in that. a final statement around change for those in HR. We can't fear change, and change is not the enemy, right? And I think that's something we get nervous about creating and introducing big transformational programs. And it's meant to be uncomfortable, but we have an obligation. HR has an obligation, right, to take action so they may do better for their people and the humans who work for them. So this is key. Remember, it will be uncomfortable, but this is how we move forward. This is how we change. And I will just end before I hand it over, and I'm not sure who's after me, but again, the only way we're going to do this is together. And so we're actively living and shaping the world, and we're in a moment in history that will change the world. So we need to do this together. I guess my final advice to HR and all of you who are on the call and leaders is listen more, right? When you show up to a conversation, even if you have in your mind, I know what we need to do, before you blurt that out, take time, listen to what everyone else has to say, right? Because this will inspire people around you. Let them be a part of change. And it isn't just an obligation to let them be a part of change. It's what happens is you actually alter, and you will potentially and likely change what you believe is the right way to move forward, right? I mean, stay true to what you believe in, but leverage other people and minds around you. That's how great organizations create incredible success. That's how great organizations create incredible customer loyalty. That's how great organizations create, products that change the world, as they listen and they give the opportunity and they give the mic to their people. And so I urge you all, if you take anything away from this, is listen more, right? To help facilitate open, honest, transparent conversation. And as CHROs are out there, build programs and introduce technology that help support this. And there are great technology solutions out there that do help with this. But most importantly, it's humans being humans in the best possible way. So let's shape it together. Thank you. And we'll do questions at the end. And I'll turn it over to Bissy. Who's next?
It's Marcus.
Marcus.
Yeah, great.
Honored to be followed by Marcus, and honored to go right after Kevin. It's like the perfect sandwich. I couldn't be happier.
Amazing. So yeah, let me share my screen, and I will just continue where Dan stopped. So change is not the enemy. And I present you the whole screen because I will switch a little bit between PowerPoint and my browser, because I want to show you also something. And so what will I tell you today? I will talk about technology, about digital. And Dan said it before, we are in a really, really big changing world. We are on the way to something big, and it's just getting started. That's also what we have to think of. So it's a big transformation, which is started since some months only. So it's not long ago. And this wave of artificial intelligence and technology-driven wave is on the way. And I think a lot of companies, a lot of organizations are not yet ready to handle that, are not yet have no strategy at the moment, are really lost still. And that's why it matters a lot what people do, to look to the people, to look to the employees. So artificial intelligence is a tool, not a threat. And I think that's very important, to come from the positive side, to see the opportunities, to see not the threats, see the opportunities. How can that help us? How can we grow with that? How can we get better? How can we leverage that in our organizations? And how can we use it to do something positive. And doing something positive means, of course, making our work easier, and also on the other side, creating new exciting products, looking into the markets and creating something new. And that's a big chance for many organizations. And there is a big opportunity at the moment, which we see on the way. So I will show you some statistics, and that's here. That the software market, artificial intelligence market, and if you look at that, it's just impressive how it explodes. And if you see like 2018 to 2025, it's a big explosion of revenue. So this is a really growth market, and ChatGPT has changed everything in the last months. And we see every day new tools coming, new systems, new ideas on the markets. And I'm thinking back of the time when the internet just started, and I feel like in these times where every day new companies came onto the market and new tools and new systems. And we are in the same procedure at the moment with artificial intelligence. And that's what happens at the moment. Then looking into the companies, it's also important to notice that the companies see it coming. So 83% of companies say that artificial intelligence is a top priority. So CEOs see that there is something on the way, and something which can be very big and very, very threatening also for some business models. So there needs to be a change, there needs to be action. And that's again action between HR and technology. That's again this combination we saw in the last years, many years ago, since the internet arrived. We always see this combination. And if we look now into HR, and I think I don't need to go into details of that now, there are many problems around HR. And we heard that from Kevin, we heard that from Dan. Interesting was what Kevin said about legacy systems, how they reduce the ability of HR departments to perform well, and also to affect employees in the end. And so it's a lot of challenges here. For example, 30% of new hires leave the company within 3 months. People are not happy in their jobs. We see that all the time. There are limited growth opportunities for companies. So something is wrong with this in many companies. And I think some companies master it. Some companies are great and keeping their talents and grow their talents, but other companies not. And I see many of these big companies also struggling to keep talent and to keep going forward. Some other statistics here, lack of onboarding technologies. So also technology side is a problem. We have a lot of legacy systems in the companies, a lot of different tools. Some are also not investing in their systems, and it's anyway a huge market. So how can we solve that? And a little bit of a solution, and I always tell to the people, technology is not a whole solution. So it's always only a step to make it better, is of course technology. And what I like to show you now is a little bit of view into what happens in the markets. And it's only a very, very small view, because every day it changes. So tomorrow we will see something new. What is today, and the things today will be outdated. The speed is very fast. And there are technologies in HR, and that's a broad range where technology appears. So it's from personal data management, resource management, skill management, performance management. Training, of course, is a very big area for technology. We have HR and administration management. We have resource allocation. So HR has a lot of areas where technology is important. And going into AI now, where could AI help? And I have here a survey from HR leaders, and they see that they need AI. So if you look at this survey, there is a lot of areas of HR areas where HR leaders see potentials for AI technologies. And if we look from the other side, of course, there is also barriers. There are also barriers to adoption, and also there a lot of things are there where people see challenges, where people see problems, and but we have always these both sides. Jumping into the AI world now, and I will tell you a secret about this slide later. So this slide, remember that slide? I will tell you a secret in some minutes about that slide. And where can AI be used in HR? So it can be in recruitment, it can be in development and training, employee engagement, performance evaluation, so different direction. And I just want to jump in and show you something so that you see how that could look like. So real practical examples. And let me jump to the first tool, and that's a called People GPT. So it's a like Chat GPT tool, and I just show you that. So jumping to that, I hope you see still my screen, right? You see it still? Can somebody give feedback?
Yes,
Okay,
do.
great. So what that is in the end, it's like ChatGPT, but you search for people. And I've done that at the moment. The query runs a little bit. That's why I've already done that. And I said, okay, I want to have a senior React developer in Zurich, and I want to have that this person has worked for some of these companies. So you can create that here and just create a query and select people from the world. And what you get here on the right side, you see a list of people which are selected by the system, and that's a suggestion for new hirings. So it's a ChatGPT system for people as an example of what AI can do today. And I'm jumping forward to the next one, and that's another technology, another tool I want to show you. And also here I'm just jumping in, and here comes a short video. What this tool makes is, it's called Cody, and it can teach your data. So you just upload some kind of data, your local and business data, and you can upload also a web page. So what you like, and it teaches your data. So that means you can create like an HR bot. That means all your HR information, which is relevant to people in your company, you can put in, and then the people just ask questions. So like ChatGPT for general intelligence, it's your HR intelligence system. And I think that helps a lot not to read anymore these long HR documents, which some people have or some companies have. You just go into your chatbot, your local private chatbot, and you see what's relevant, and you ask the relevant questions you need to know. Then another tool I want to show you, that's also an exciting one, and I just go again to the web page. So that's an interview bot, and perhaps you have for sure seen the old forms, how that works today. If you apply for a job, it's sometimes quite challenging because you have a lot of forms there and a lot of forms to fill out. So here is a bot, so you can just type your name. I just try it, and yeah, so you can take a picture here, and I don't do that at the moment. I just skip that, and then you select your email address. I just type test to show that, and then you select your gender and so on. So it's a more personal way to fill in your application instead of putting that into these forms where it's sometimes really long work and extreme time consuming, and in the end you get an error message, and then you have to do it again because your browser stops working. Then jumping back to my slide, I have here a little performance review. And that's a very short tool. I just show you that one. So I can fill out here an employee's name, a role. I can make a kind of review here. It's even a free tool. And I can even add questions. And then I generate here a kind of performance review. So just for as a first basis, perhaps, and I can optimize that to save some time. Okay, going to the next one, CV Grader, also interesting one, and all, of course, based on AI. I just played that video, and perhaps you had also this problem to have a lot of applications. We had that problem just recently because we at Quarero, we have always jobs which are global, so we don't care where the people sit. We work fully remote, and so we had about 40 applications per day, which is a lot. And with that tool, you can put in the main questions for the CV, and then upload all your CVs you have received. And the tool analyzes the CVs based on your questions you have and rates then which are the most relevant CVs for this position. So it speeds up the process, it speeds up the recruitment process, and I think it can be a big help to just save some time. Okay, let's jump to another one. Here is this. So HR Mate. And that's more a training tool, also an AI tool. I just want to quickly show this. So let's try a simulation. So we want to have software, front-end developer role, start an interview. And that's an interview training based on AI. That means now click start to interview. And you can train to do an interview, and based on your skills, based on the role. So let's start with the first question. Share your experience as a front-end developer, and you can type in, I work for IBM since 2016, whatever, and send that. And then another question comes up and information comes up, and you can train also with AI how to make a better interview, how to get better prepared for interviews. And that's a very exciting one. I show you that one here. And what it is a big pain is when you do online interviews, and you see it here, you always have to, as an interviewer, you have to type, you have to think, you have to follow the person, the person who applies for the job. So it's quite a lot of overload in terms of work. So you do a lot in parallel. And this tool, it's called Mathew. It helps to document what you speak and what you type. So all the questions, all the answers, it's documenting it, and you can analyze it with AI, and then you notice in the end and compare it with different candidates. So also an helper, a small helper to get forward, to make things easier. Okay, and I will show you the last tool I have selected for the day, and that's in my opinion, a very exciting one, because that can help you with making PowerPoint presentations. And I think you know it, it's a lot of work always to make PowerPoint presentations. So how can you make PowerPoint presentation with AI? And I just have to move that. So one moment. So we make a new presentation with AI, a guided presentation, because we want to have some ideas. So we make presentation and then say, okay, HR and artificial intelligence is our title. And we say go, that the system generates now something, introduces also to, yes, to the key bullet points. We can change them, of course. And we just go forward and try it. And we keep it in English. And then we select design like this. We continue. And what happens is the system creates us now a PowerPoint presentation. So you see how the system is writing, and you see how fast it goes. Of course, you can optimize, you can change different things here and make it more fancy, you can change it afterwards. And if you remember my one slide, I told you that was made with this tool. So this tool made one slide in my presentation. That's the presentation. You can download it, can use it. And I just want to give you with that, with that information, with some of these tools, just a little bit of introduction, what happens at the moment in this world. And this is only the top of the iceberg. There is so much more happening. It's so active at the moment out there. A lot of startups come up. Of course, many will not survive, but it will change the way we work in a extreme way. And that's what I just want to give you as an information. Be ready for the change. So that's the idea. Also, I think AI is the new electricity. AI will be everywhere, what we do in the future. So there is no way to say we don't do it. We have to change and adapt and go forward with it. So that was the part from my side. And I think we have one more speaker left.
Yeah. So,
Thank you, Marcus, for an amazing presentation. And over to you, Dr. Sandeep.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll share the slide. You're able to see my screen now. So
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor.
Yes, it works.
So after the amazing presentations by our dear speakers, just something about the mental health aspects of HR. So we were hearing amazing stories about artificial intelligence and what all it can do. Something really down to it practical about the mental health aspects from a psychiatric point of view. First of all, I want to present to you something about something of the data that is available about the prevalence of mental and substance use disorder. And when you see the graph, it's very evident. Anxiety disorders are there, depression, alcohol use disorders, and then the other substance drug use disorders, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, eating disorders, and then other miscellaneous all would be coming. So yeah, you see out of the share of the total population with a given mental health or substance use disorder, we see the prevalence of anxiety disorders and depressive disorders are very much common. Even when we interact with so many people in our workplace, in our neighborhood, among our friend circles, we come across so many people with symptoms of anxiety and depression, and sometimes substance use problems, alcohol problems, then bipolar illness, psychosis. When it is in a very chronic form, we call it schizophrenia. So like that. So what's the why people in HR field should be aware about these mental health aspects? Because mental health and cardiovascular disease are top drivers of lost output. People's productivity are affected a lot because of this mental health problems. So if you see the breakdown of NCD, that is this non-communicable diseases caused by disease type based on EPIC model, you see the 35% is contributed by mental health problems, 33% by cardiovascular diseases. Then only comes cancer and chronic respiratory diseases and diabetes and all. And this small table tells us how the cause of mental health, cause of the treatment of mental health would almost double by 2030. So if you see that direct cause and indirect cause, we'll see how it is more than double would be the cost. And see, if you see this graph, this map, world map, where mental health problems are more prevalent, more diagnosed, more evident. So the graph speaks out for itself. And now coming to our workplace scenario, in the context of 60% of the world population is in work, and 61% of workers work in informal economy, and 207 million unemployed people are expected in 2022 as per this data. And in this context, the prevalence about this anxiety and depression mainly, then the suicide, we see 301 million lived with anxiety, and 280 million lived with depressive symptoms, and in the 7,03,000 people died by suicide in 2019, according from this data. And 15% of working age adults had a mental disorder in 2019. And how it impacts our work culture and our work scenario. You see, 50% of total societal cost of mental health conditions is driven by indirect causes as reduced productivity. So the direct cause of medicines, admission, hospitalization, all are there. Then the indirect cause of reduced productivity is there. And 12 billion working days are lost every year due to depression and anxiety. And $1 trillion goes to global economy due to depression and anxiety, predominantly from lost productivity. So by now itself, we know the magnitude of the problem and the relevance of mental health, and what policies that we can adopt to support stakeholders in the world of work to fulfill their respective roles in taking action to improve mental health at work. What can we do? First stage is prevention, then protection and promotion, and then supporting those who are already having problems. So with respect to prevention, preventing exposure to psychosocial risks, risk to mental health at work. That means actually, overtime working and, very minimum flexibility and interpersonal problems at workplace, and no care for the feelings of other people, lack of empathy from the employers, So many things in the preventive aspect itself, psychosocial risks can be prevented in the workplace. And then protection of mental health and well-being at work and promoting, and uh, by giving them more of opportunities for uh, recreation, stress management strategies, and joint efforts, offering help when needed, delegating tasks, and regular series of assessments of the mental health situations, and also like that we can protect and promote mental health and well-being at work also, and we can support those already having problems, those already taking medicines and psychotherapy, and we can have a supportive, empathetic, listening, non-judgmental attitude. So support people with mental health condition to participate and thrive at work rather than segregating them and gossiping about them or backbiting about them or plotting against them, but rather be warm to them, because any one of us also can develop any problem at any point of time. None of us are immune, and we all are living in this very chaotic world. We cannot predict when our, what to say, all this threshold will break off, and we develop anxiety symptoms or depressive symptoms, or even there can be some physical diseases that one can develop, and comorbid conditions, anxiety and stress and all these things can develop also. And something about the organizational interventions. As an organization, what all interventions can you do? Here in this box 1, we see planned actions that directly target working conditions to prevent deterioration in mental or physical quality of life. For example, what actions can be planned to directly target the working conditions to promote mental health. One thing very simple and straightforward is provide flexible working arrangements, not becoming too rigid and too legalistic and too strict, but rather flexible working arrangements involving workers in decisions about their job, getting their opinions, getting their viewpoint, what they prefer, what are their priorities, how much time they can afford to spend, how much they expect, and all those things. Modifying workloads or work schedules to enable work-life prioritization, work-life balance. In the box, we read about this assessing and modifying, mitigating, or removing psychosocial risks to mental health. For example, for suicidal prevention, examples include restricting access to means of suicide at work, such as pesticides or medicines, like that. And organizational interventions that address psychosocial risk factors help reduce emotional distress and improve work-related outcomes, such as job satisfaction, absenteeism, work performance, etc. All this has got robust evidence also. In all cases, organizational interventions work best when planned and delivered through meaningful participation of workers and or their representatives, and as part of a broader program of activities that also includes interventions to protect and support mental health at work. So we need to plan the work environment in such a way. And going to the box 2, there we see interventions to protect and promote mental health at work. What can we do? Manager training for mental health are there, training for workers in mental health literacy and awareness, and individual interventions are there. From the managerial viewpoint, they have to recognize and appropriately respond to supervisors experiencing emotional distress rather than being so callous and unempathetic. And one need to employ interpersonal management skills such as open communication and active listening. Just having a person to empathize with you and listen to, and even if there are no immediate solutions, if there is somebody to listen to itself, that itself will relieve much of stress in people. That's why in psychotherapy, much time we spend in listening to what they want to say and how they feel, what are their problems, and just to spend time, because in this busy world, there are scarcely any people, even in their families or close friend circle, to listen to them empathetically, not just listen to them in an absent-minded way, but to empathetically, without a judgmental attitude, to listen to that person. And also, this managers, employers should promote an inclusive and supportive work culture rather than being exclusive and segregating people with some problem or some oddity in behavior. Advocate for action on mental health at work from top down. Understand how psychosocial risks can affect mental health and know how to prevent and control them. Control them meaning they need to get good treatment, good interventions, and regular follow-up, and sometimes actually medicines for a significant period of time should be there. So all this has to be supervised, and all this can be practically addressed. Ensure that workers can access support from their representatives, as the case may be. Sometimes actually, everyone may not be able to have equal access to the topmost boss at the top of the ladder, but some representatives at each ladder where they can, some counselors where these problems can be discussed, and so that many things can be sorted out in a very joint venture itself. And training for workers in mental health literacy and awareness, improve understanding about mental health and well-being at work, knowing that what are the usual symptoms of mental health problems, like depressive symptoms, how does it present. We say the core depressive symptoms, the 3 cardinal symptoms of depression, we say. But from the word depression itself, we know it's a sad mood, decreased energy levels, or easy fatigability. That means, easy fatigability and feeling like lying down all the time, like that. And one another third symptom is decreased interest in previously pleasurable activities. And there are many other associated symptoms like problems with attention and concentration, sleep problems, appetite problems, socialization problems, suicidal ideations, sometimes associated with psychotic symptoms. And in the psychosis, there can be delusions, hallucinations. So like that, of course, in our previous webinars and all, I was explaining about what all are the common psychiatric symptoms and all, and how they present to clinicians. All those recordings are already available. So improving the understanding about mental health and well-being at work. Sometimes even the suspicions and the fears and social anxiety, or if properly treated and all, there will be much productivity from these employees. And shift attitudes around mental health conditions to reduce stigma. So the more we understand about the neurochemical imbalance and how stress affects all these, how there are underlying genetic factors and all, there will be less and less stigma. Just like there are physical diseases, there are psychological disorders. So although there are some differences between physical diseases and psychological disorders, but in many ways, those are very similar. Just like any person can develop any physical disease, a person can develop any psychological problems also at any point of time. So that will reduce stigma much and encourage help-seeking behavior rather than covering it up and making things worse. And individual interventions, that's helping people build skills to manage stress, the basic stress management, how cognitively they can rewire or reframe the pattern of thinking and help in emotional healing, and how behaviorally they can change what all they are doing, some exercise and hobbies and socialization and all those things, how behaviorally all those things can be reframed in such a manner that their stress is at the minimum level. So build skills to manage stress and reduce symptoms of mental health conditions, mostly by treatment. Of course, there are very effective, good medicines. I always thank God for the good medicines that has been discovered. Unlike in the remote past, in the ancient past, in even a few decades ago itself, there were the mental health, the psychotropic drugs, the medicines and all were having much side effects and all many decades ago. But within the last few decades and all, we have among the antidepressants, among the antipsychotics, among the anxiolytics, among the benzodiazepine group of medicines, among the medicines that we use for de-addiction and detoxification and all. There are many better and better medicines are available with nil significant side effects for many of them, and really people can really be benefited. So many a time, because of the stigma around the medicines and all, people hesitate to take medicines. They are worried about the side effects, they're worried about the cost, they're worried about what other people will think. And there will be many people who give them wrong information that, oh, this medicines will cause this and that and this and that. But, giving them good awareness and clarifying their doubts and helping them to comply with the medicine standard will help to reduce the symptoms of mental health conditions or in an individual intervention realm. And in the box 3, interventions is support. So prevent, promote, prevent the psychosocial stressors and risks and all. Then the promotion of mental health and protection of mental health and protection of workers and promotion of mental health. And here in box 3, about how we need to support workers with mental health conditions. They might already be suffering from all those things. So reasonable accommodations at work, return to work programs, supported employment initiatives. So in the reasonable accommodations at work, that means adapt working environment to match the capacities, needs, and preferences of the workers. So in practice, actually, it's an organization intervention, but they are implemented to address the barriers that individual workers face rather than the whole organization. Reasonable accommodation may include about all things, giving individual workers flexible working hours, extra time to complete tasks, very practical things, and time off for mental health care, just to relax, just to just to refresh themselves and come back fresh for work. They may include access to private spaces, such as somewhere to store medicines or somewhere to rest when necessary. They may also include regular supportive meetings with supervisors or job redesign to reduce interacting with clients if workers finds this unduly stressful. So we need to tailor to the individual needs of the patients. And return to work programs. That means actually because of the mental health problem, if they were off for work for a particular period of time, say 1 month or a few weeks, even after that, they should be allowed and encouraged to come back to work. So it enables workers to return to or remain in employment after absence associated with medical conditions. So these programs can combine work-directed care, including reasonable accommodation, or phased re-entry to work. Sometimes they may not be able to work for all the full day, but half day. So that much only they can afford to work for. So phased re-entry to work with ongoing evidence-based clinical care to support workers in meaningfully returning to work while also reducing symptoms of mental health conditions. And supported employment initiatives that are designed to enhance vocational and economic inclusion for people with severe mental health conditions. So through these initiatives, individuals are supported into paid work quickly and then continue to receive mental health and vocational support, usually from health, social, and employment services or psychosocial rehabilitation programs to learn on the job. In some cases, supported employment programs are augmented with additional interventions such as social skills training and cognitive behavior therapy. So if they need problem-solving skills or social skills training or cognitive behavior therapy, whatever is the need of the hour, whatever they really lack, where they are weak, that areas we need to reinforce and strengthen and help them, support them, so that there will be better productivity in their work. And here we see the cross-cutting actions to improve mental health at work. I'm not going to read the full table and all. Just see in the leadership level. See here the two for employers, for government, in the policy making for the government, and for the employers in the leadership realm, strengthening commitment to mental health at work, and investment, securing sufficient funds and resources to protect, promote, and support mental health at work, and rights, upholding people's rights to participate fully and effectively in work. And here in the government realm, what all policies can be there to implement proven anti-stigma interventions, integrate mental health at work, build capacities, ensure resources, support lower resource enterprises, include mental health in universal health coverage packages for essential services and financial protection schemes. I'm not reading the whole thing, but just some important things. I just read it out. And here also we see the role for integrating action to prevent, protect, promote, and support. So we saw those words: prevent, protect, and promote, and support mental health at work across sectors. Then ensuring the participation, engaging workers and people with experience in decision making about mental health at work at all levels. And evidence, strengthening the evidence based on the prevalence and impact of work-related risks and effectiveness of interventions. So the more evidence we are able to generate, the more good good interventions we would be able to bring to so many people across the globe. And compliance, strengthening uptake of and compliance with evidence-based laws, regulations, and recommendations. All these things, integration and participation, also all in the government realm. Also, we see in the blue table below: value mental health as much as physical health, promote this tripartite discussion, use lessons learned during emergencies and other crises, use a combination of enforcement options, provide expert advice and guidance. So all these things we see in the table. So in a nutshell, here we see the multi-stakeholder action for mental health at work, employers and workers organization. These organizations offer a first point of contact for employers or workers with concerns about mental health at work. And they can use consultative methods to identify psychosocial hazards and assess the associated risks, prioritize needs, and help design, implement, and monitor interventions. And they can address issues through joint employer workers mechanisms, such as workplace health and safety and safety committees. There can be some committees to address these issues and ensure that workers' representatives have time and resources to represent their members effectively in negotiations and discussions when support is requested. So from the employers workers organization point of view, then there can be civil society organizations which can advocate and negotiate for policies and interventions and hold governments and employers to account on delivery of safe and inclusive workplaces, raise awareness on mental health at work and evidence-based interventions among both workers and employees, tackle mental health stigma in the workplace through education and social contact, advocate for and engage in supported and employment initiatives and return to work programs. And for the health service planners, what they can do, they can provide interventions for workers with digital access to care, including informal workers and workers in low resource settings. There are people where they have little access to care. So how those people can, the needs of those people can be catered to, build capacity to identify and care for work-related mental health conditions among occupational health, mental health, and primary care providers, establish district focal points to advise employers and help implement interventions, especially in SMEs, and participate in supported employment initiatives and return to work programs and advice on reasonable accommodation. So overall, we see the gravity of the situation, how the productivity is lost because of mental health problems, and what all practical things that we can employ to prevent psychosocial risks to mental health problems, to protect and promote mental health in workplace, and to support those already having problems. So hope this helps. And if there are further questions also, you're welcome at the end of the seminar. Thank you. Over to Marcus.
Yeah, I think, Marcus, should we keep the takeaways and wrap up? Because I think we're overshooting a lot of time. So
Yeah,
should we?
I think the takeaways we heard already quite good from the radical experience model, what Dan explained. From that side, we can also jump over these takeaways and go directly into Q&A.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, great. So now we open the forum for Q&A. If anyone in the audience has questions, you could just come on board and talk, or you could just put your questions on chat, whatever suits you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Arsanna I work for an HR consultancy. I'm basically the regional PR and sustainability and communication manager. Basically, I also wrote in the comments that there's, where, when you talk about the mental health of an employee, especially after the pandemic, because that had become a major issue because you know the whole world the whole world went through a psychological shift along with the changes that they were going through during the pandemic when everybody had to sit back home and there's this whole work from home and they didn't know how to divide their hours and so talking about the mental state of the employees. Yeah, because I've joined an HR consulting, we really stress on neurodiverse employees and how to cater to them. So, how can we cater to them and not make it seem like they're like special or, there's something like people with ADHD, right? They're part of the workforce as well. So, how can that be remedied?
Yeah, Dr. Sandeep, I think that's a question for you.
Yeah, so good
So
question.
it's basically inclusive, including neurodiverse people and how to go about doing that.
Yeah. So we need to identify people with problems. If we can have some general questionnaires and some simple surveys itself, they can tick about all problems that they face. And we can include some symptoms of many mental health problems also in the checklist that they can go through. And if if we notice that some of our employees are facing significant stress and sleep problems or attention concentration problems or even suicidal ideations or even core depressive symptoms or severe anxiety symptoms or panic symptoms or even sometimes even psychotic symptoms like they're out of touch with reality, some delusions, hallucinations. So we need to be aware of what are the different mental health symptoms and we identify either through some surveys and questionnaire, close interviews. So in whatever way, if we can identify the people with such symptoms, we can guide them to a good psychiatrist without any pomp and
See,
show.
because I'm a neurodiverse employee myself, and I suffer from severe anxiety problems, and I'm taking medication for those as well. But
Yeah.
sometimes it does get out of my hand, and it does get very difficult for me to cope up. Although it's something I've done for such a long time. I have more than 15 years of experience in PR and all that I do. But the thing is that I was asking, because even though being neurodiverse, my company is just amazing. The HR consultancy I work for, they're amazing with the way they've, sort of planned out the whole employee sort of, keeping them on board with everything and all of that. So I just wanted to know that about this. So thank you very much, Dr. Sun.
Yeah, thank you. Hope that my question my answer
Yes,
answered
yes,
your
it did.
question.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Certainly, certainly.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, man.
Great. I see a question in chat. So I'm just reading through it now. Take my glasses off.
I believe there is a need for more social workers in the corporate world. That's from Gokul.
Yeah. I'll just jump into that. And Arsiana, is that how you pronounce your name? I'm
No,
assuming.
this is Gokul. This is from Gokul.
No,
Arsalna.
yeah,
Arsalna.
Arsana, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of tying these questions together with Google's question too. I think first of all, thank you for bringing that up and being brave in a safe space to talk about something so important. And I think the response was perfect. And my only add, I think, again, I want to say this because it's important and it does sort of tie into the work that social workers can do. We need to create a safe place where, again, whatever defines us and makes us up, whoever we are, should never be a deterrent from being able to succeed and have every opportunity and every door open and every chance as everyone else. I mean, that is inclusivity at its best in the workforce. So I just appreciate you bringing that up. And we work with organizations challenging HR just to make sure there is a safe place where you can raise your hand and say, look, here are things that are hard for me and that I'm dealing with, because you don't want to create a culture where if I raise my hand, I lose opportunity for mobility and growth because I'm seen differently, right? So it's so important that we create an environment of an inclusive environment and create the proper help as needed and just support systems. So anyway, I just wanted to add to that. And with that, I love the question around the work that social workers do. As an advisor and mentor to a lot of CEOs and CHROs, I sometimes think of my work as I kind of think I'm doing a lot of very heavy almost therapy, if you will. So sometimes, and again, it comes back to that ability to listen and really understand people and connections, and the work that social workers do in creating, systems and structure, right, to grow and achieve and head in the right direction and better yourself. Obviously, all those things we talked around building connections and support and commitment to change and commitment to taking care of yourself matters. So I 100% agree with that comment. I think the work that's done throughout the world that social work professionals do across all aspects of life should be embraced amongst leadership in general, and certainly HR. What's the first word of HR? It's human, right? So we are ultimately, the responsibility of HR is to take care of human beings. And I think the work that social workers do should be absolutely mimicked in a lot of ways and understood better. So that should be a learning opportunity for HR. Other questions? Well, I know, Bissy, we're pretty far over. I would just say
pretty much overshot the time. So I think
yeah,
we should call it a day.
I would offer if I put in my LinkedIn and I don't know, I'm sure all the panelists would be comfortable with that. If you want to reach out with any questions directly, please feel free to. I'm always open to have a conversation or take a question. So do connect on LinkedIn, and we're here.
Yes, we have these sessions almost regularly. So it's one of our enlightening episodes, and hopefully, so if you need to reach out to any one of us, you could connect on LinkedIn or email or anything,
I
any other.
think I will be a regular now on this forum because it was so insightful and so amazing. I've left we're a Dubai-based, HR consultancy, and my boss, she's also an advocate for all of the things that we spoke about today. So, we could set up a meeting with her, and if you would want to talk to her, she would love to speak on such a forum. So, something to think about today. So if you want to reach out to her, I'm there. So, that would be in addition to what all you people spoke about today, which was brilliantly, put together, and it was an amazing webinar. So great work, all of you guys.
Thanks, Arshina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And stay in touch, and we'll see you again. And yes, you can connect to us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think that's about it. Let's call it a day for now, as we overshot the time. So, all right then. See everybody again soon. Okay. Bye. Bye now.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, goodbye. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. Have a good night. Okay.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.